My name is Amir, and I am doing my first Word on the Street assignment, and I chose the narrative paradigm. The narrative paradigm is a concept in communication theory that was developed by Walter Fisher. The concept is actually adopted from one of the oldest forms of communication, which is actually storytelling. He believes that in order for any story or any meaningful form of communication to be successful, it must be in the form of a story. His reasoning behind this was that people who share their past events or anything that's happened to them in the past would allow the reader to engage more in the conversation and paint a more clear picture in their mind, allowing them to really understand what is being said. And this has it's shown that this has had a larger influence on the listener when it's said in the story. This concept involves a narrator and a listener, so it's not really a conversation between two. It's more of someone narrating a story and someone taking in the story. And the concept is based off of two principles, one being coherence, and what's being said needs to be tuned to the listener, as it will only be effective if the listener understands the story and the story can make sense to them. So if you're trying to tell a story to, a child, you wouldn't want to use very complex words and a form that won't relate to them. Another principle of this form of communication is fidelity, which is pretty much the credibility of the story needs to be strong. If the story doesn't sound believable or factual, then the listener won't be able to engage in the conversation and really be influenced by it when it's not something that they can see themselves believing or understanding themselves. So the reason I chose this is because I have an example that I can use that relates to my own life. So when I was younger, and even now, whenever me and my sister get into small petty arguments, when we don't speak for like a few hours, my dad would always pull me aside and he would share a story with me about one of his good friends when he was younger that had a very bad relationship with his sister. They would always argue, and around there when he would start telling me that they would always argue is where he would insert and try and compare my arguments to my sister to give it credibility, to kind of relate it to me. And he furthered that by saying that when they became adults, they did not have a relationship at all. Both of their kids didn't have a relationship, so the cousins didn't speak. And I come from a family where my dad has 4 siblings, my mom has 4 siblings, and, we're a huge family, a bunch of cousins, we're all very close. And he would always ask me, like, he'd look at me and be like, how would you feel if you didn't have a relationship with your cousins, and I didn't have a relationship with my brothers and sisters, and your mom didn't? And he would always bring that back to me, and I would really be influenced by the story because he would use the concept of narrative paradigm and would make it into a story that helps me understand it more and relate it to my own life versus just saying, this is wrong, don't do it. This is more of an effective way of doing that. Thank you.